I'm going to set the value of this brand refresh task, and the AI is automatically going to set the assignee, start date, due date, and even the effort to execute this task, which basically lets me have my workload view fully automated by AI. Since everyone has their tasks planned in their workload, and everything is planned in slots of 1 week between Monday and Friday. That way, my team can work in sprints and I can have clarity over who's overloaded versus who is free. All of this without having to use ClickUp AI agents. If I get back to my list, as you can see, the brand refresh task has been planned as well. What this means is for my 10 clients agency, I can make this task planning fully automated with AI. If you want to learn how to do this, stay in this video because I'm going to give you a full tutorial on make.com and AI automation. Let's go. So for context, I'm in a ClickUp workspace here, and I have a list view here sorted by batch. Basically what the batch method is about, it's automating your task planning. Because you probably don't have time to think with precision about when to start a task, when to finish it, how many hours it is exactly, you want a simple method that automatically plans the batch of work for you in slots of weeks. So this week, next week, later, or someday. And then the points for you. So you can set 1, 2, 3 points depending on the effort with a rule set as follows. 1 point is 2 hours, 2 points is gonna be 4 hours, and 8 points being 8 hours. That way you just know roughly that it takes a few hours, half a day, or a full day of work. And if something takes more time than that, it's probably worth splitting up. What that means is that if you're able to set start dates, due dates with your week and have estimates and assignees, then you're able to have your workload being visible. As a founder, as a manager, you're going to be able to know exactly if someone is overboard or not. I'm going to explain you how as an agency you can fully automate it. But before we do that, I need to first explain you what is even an AI agent? How is it different from ChatGPT? And what makes agentic workload more efficient than just automation? And when to even use AI agents? So think of an AI agent as some sort of persona that thinks, decides, and takes actions on tasks, okay? Their role is to get things done with a specific scope of work. And to scope that work, the AI agent has a little universe around it. It's made of 3 items: knowledge, instructions, and tools. So think of knowledge as the context of your business, what your company does, what are your past conversations, who you are, the clients you serve, and all of this needs to be given and fed into the agent for it to come up with relevant output. Otherwise, you're going to end up with random information that's not bounded by your actual business. Think of instructions as a set of rules you're giving to your agents. So you're telling them to execute things through a specific way. You need to tell them their role, what are their boundaries, what's their voice, how they need to work. And then last, you're going to have tools. So tools are basically a way to connect to certain apps and get the work done. If you don't give them tools, they're going to get instructions, they're going to get knowledge, but they're not going to be able to do anything. They're going to be, okay, but so what? So you need to let them do the work. And that is the main difference between a chat you're going to have with ChatGPT and agentic work. So if you're talking to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini on your browser, you're basically going back and forth. And all it's doing is just replying to your instructions with potentially knowledge you would give in your chat. Whereas with the set of tools, and that is key to agentic work, it's going to be able to do stuff. It's going to be able to connect to ClickUp, connect to your Gmail, connect to your calendar, schedule events for you, create tasks, change statuses, and do a bunch of work for your business. For the sake of this video, we're going to bound the agent as follows. We're going to give it a set of knowledge about our business, our agency, what it does, who works in the agency, what types of clients we serve. Then we're going to give it some instructions. And then finally, we're going to give it tools. So we're going to tell it you can go read stuff on ClickUp and you can edit tasks on ClickUp. And both are key because what our agent is aimed at doing is reading all of those tasks and reading the current tasks in the current week of a person and basically planning the task for them. So if they know that this person is responsible of account management, any new account management task, it's going to know it's this person, Anya, that has to do it. And then from there, it's going to be able to know, does this person have enough workload in their week? Can I add more stuff to this week of work? And then based on that, they're going to be able to decide and set the batch. And last point, they're going to be, all right, how does a brand guidelines document work and how long does it usually take? Okay, usually writing a brand guidelines document takes 4 hours to the agency. So based on that, I'm going to be able to set 2 points. And that's the mental model of an agent. That's how it works. It asks itself a set of questions and acts after. That's called reasoning, and that's how agentic work is going forward in 2026. Now, there's a bunch of different models capable of reasoning. We're going to use one of the most capable models right now for your money. It's Gemini Flash 3.5. It's dirt cheap and it's very powerful. Now, let's look at how this is going to work. So what we're going to do is that each time an event happens in ClickUp, we're going to trigger our automation in make.com. As soon as the tag is added to ClickUp, it's going to trigger an event in make.com. It's going to work through a webhook. It's basically a knock in the door to your make.com saying there's a new event happened in ClickUp. Someone wants to triage a task. Can you just look at the task and let the agent do its work? And then what make.com is going to do is get the details of the task, so get to know what the task is about, its name, its description and stuff, and then get the rule set of our agency. The rule set is basically your knowledge, information about your business, your conversations, who you are, and we're going to decide of the different values of the custom fields based on what is going on. So we're going to set the batch, the points, the assignee tasks. And doing this takes obviously like a few minutes per user if you were to do it manually, like thinking of, all right, this has to be done from Monday to here, and then it goes into next week. And like it is basically 2 points because it's 4 hours of work. And then I have an automations behind the scenes that updates the time estimate based on the points. But basically you're going to have to do that every time. It takes about a minute or two. Whereas what your agent's going to do is going to reason like you, but it's going to take him seconds and it's fully automated. And then what we're going to do is get that agent's response and get to understand what they're saying and then update those values in ClickUp. So now that we've got this, we're going to get into how to build this automation. So I've built the automation already, and it's actually available as a free blueprint if you're interested. The link is down below. Download the automation, apply it to your workspace. You might have to update a bunch of things, probably the custom field IDs, the values of the list and stuff. Because when you update automation export from Make, you're going to have to bring it to the next tool. Just so you know, this blueprint and a few more are going to be available in Agency Master. Agency Master is our full course and template set on how to set up an agency system for your business in ClickUp. It lets you set up the right spaces, folders, lists that work for your specific industry. We even have templates per industry for the industries we've actually worked with at Upsys, so that it's basically done with you and it's pretty much plug and play. You're gonna have to import everything, follow the course, the instructions, and if you want, optionally, you can even set these kind of automations in your workspace with the downloadable blueprints. So if you're interested about Agency Master, the link is also down below. You can buy it and dedicate a full day of following the course and setting it up for your business, and you basically have a running ClickUp for you. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to redo the full blueprint. I'm going to explain you how it works, and we're going to run it together so that you get the gist of it, and then you can set it up for your own business. First thing we want to do is add the webhook. So we're going to add the very first module, which is a custom webhook. We're going to create it and we're going to call it new tag triage request. Click save and get that link and click save again. And I have a webhook set up here. So from then on, I can go into here and click here into the automations. I'm at the space level and I'm going to create a new webhook based automation. I actually already have one that says each time I add a tag that says AI triage, I am asking the AI, can you please sort out this task, set the start date, due date, estimate, and stuff. I am gonna call a second webhook, which is the brand new one we've created, and I'm gonna let the first one sit there if I want, and click create webhook. I'm gonna add the same name for the webhook as the one we have in Make, and then I'm gonna paste the URL as well from my clipboard, and I'm good here. I can create my webhook and it should be going on. So I'm going to click save. And then the first thing you want to do is make sure that webhook works. So you're going to trigger it. So we're going to go here and click run once and run it on a specific task. Let's say we're going to run it on the visual identity redesign task. So I'm asking the AI to triage my task. And basically what's going to happen if we go here is that we get a response. It's positive, green, it's all good. So we have a payload here, which is basically the response from ClickUp saying, all right, someone has requested to triage this task, to sort it out. It's this task ID, this name, this content. We got a bunch of context and we basically have enough to be able to continue and move on. Now I'm gonna add a new module, and this module is about getting more info about the task. So I've actually already prepared it, and it's gonna get more info about the task with the payload ID. And then we're gonna test this second step again. So I'm gonna run it again, and what I can do with make is just run it on the previous run. So I'm gonna reuse the last execution and just make sure it goes through. Green again, it's all good. So you're gonna have to iterate like this and go step by step, bubble by bubble. That's called a module, and just prepare your automation as it goes. And then we're gonna add the next ones, which let you fetch the index of two values, the batch and the points. Why you wanna do this? Because in ClickUp, a task has custom fields, and those custom fields have values, right? This week, next week, etc. But the API of ClickUp doesn't work the same way. It's not expecting just the name, this week, next week and stuff. It's expecting the index behind it, the ID, let's say. And for ClickUp drop downs, it's actually 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if the AI thinks this task is due for this week, it's actually supposed to give us the value 1. And that's why you want to give the AI context of here is the index you're supposed to return. So I'm adding those, and I'm getting the batch index values and the points index values, and I'm getting them here as well, and returning them as variables so that I can feed them into the AI later. Obviously, this is not a full course about make. You're supposed to be like at least beginner intermediate with make to get to understand everything. But if you don't want to bother setting up this by yourself and you have other ideas or needs for agents for your agency, you can come to us, you can book a discovery call, and we'll get to understand your business and how we can help you. Next up, let's go into the next steps, which is giving more context to the agent. So what we're going to do here is add another branch and let the agent know what is the batch indexes, what is the points indexes. We're basically getting the values of those two values that are set here and getting the agency rule set. And I'm going to talk about this rule set a little bit more extensively. So a rule set is, as I explained earlier, the knowledge of your agent. And this is key. This is a key pillar for your agent to succeed in what it's supposed to do. This rule set is actually a ClickUp document we have here. I have what I call the agency rule set. It's a ClickUp docs, and we are querying it, we're requesting it with an API call, since ClickUp offers us the possibility to get the values of a document page, and we are letting the agent know exactly how it works, how our business works. So we are a branding agency, we're called Brandalia. This is a document requested by Make.com automations passed into AI agents. You are a workload aware task planning assistant. Here is our workflow. So we are basically letting the agent know how it's supposed to work. I'm gonna put that into the package as well. So you're gonna have the make blueprint as well as these instructions. Obviously, this is just a basis, and you're gonna have to give that to ChatGPT or Claude just to let them know to adapt them to your business. Next, we're gonna have the batch rules. We're gonna explain to the agent that this week is urgent. Whatever is to be planned this week, it's urgent stuff, client waiting, a deadline. So it has to start this Monday and finish on Friday. And then next week is gonna start next Monday and due next Friday. Later, Monday in 2 weeks, Friday in 3 weeks, and someday, Monday in 3 weeks, Friday in 4 weeks. So we're basically letting the agent know how we operate, how we work, and these are rule sets for our sprints of work, which we call the batches. And next up, we're gonna have the points. So the points is basically saying one point is a quick task, simple reply, handoff, and here I'm gonna put like maybe instead of 30 minutes or less, I can put like 2 hours or less. Then medium is a revision round template. It usually takes like maybe 3 to 5 hours. And then large is a new concept, multi-step deliverable, let's say half a day or more. So we're basically letting our agent know, here's how you plan your task, here's when you have to plan them, and here is how much estimate you have to set for them. So we are steering our agent with knowledge and instructions. I'm actually mixing knowledge and instructions in this rule set. I could actually have separated both, but it's totally fine to keep them in the same document. And then we have some rebalancing rules. So if something is under capacity, we can assign it to the best batch based on urgency. At or over capacity for this week, we can push to next week. So we are basically letting the agent know, you're a project manager. You gotta see if someone is overloaded and push the task to next week. If it's urgent, then bring it to this week and bump something else to next week. That's what we're saying here. And then next week, if it's also full, push to later. and later push to Sunday. So we're basically telling the agent, like any project manager, prepare the backlog of work for the team and act based on urgency and reschedule things if it makes sense. And next we have a few more information about our agency. Our name of agency is Brandalia. We're a branding and visual identity agency. We do brand strategy, logo design. I could even add attachments. I could add PDFs if I wanted. I could add like more steering instructions, presentations. I could really feed in the agent with info. One thing you have to be careful though, the more you give info to the agent, the less likely it is to find the right info and the more it's gonna cost you. Because every agent basically has a window called the context. And if you fill in the context too much, the agent is not gonna be able to put a relevant response. So try to give just the right amount of information. You can add more information, but only if it's useful. All right, next up, we're also giving it the team directory. So we're letting know who are the team members, what's their user ID, what are their responsibilities, how many points can they do every week. So you're basically letting the agent know here is the capacity of each team member. I can actually change that. I can set this to maybe 15, 15, 15, and maybe this person actually is only 10 points because they're part-time, and this one is, let's say, 10. I can totally adapt this rule set based on my business again, and then I have some more rules about assignments. Every time it's meeting requests, it's this person, logo, it's gonna be this person, packaging is gonna be this person, strategy, this person, escalations, and so on and so forth. We are giving the user IDs here on purpose because an agent doesn't care or doesn't know about names. They don't care that this person's name is Vanessa. All they want to know is what's their user ID. And it's the same thing for the next step. We're giving list IDs here of the different lists we have here in ClickUp. Then we have some more triage categories. Is it a meeting, a task? Is it important? It has to go to this person. We have some more priority. And then we have some values about custom fields. We have the value of the email sender, the batch, the points, so all of these custom fields and what's their value. So we have a bunch of knowledge for our agent. Now, obviously, these instructions are just an example and you're gonna have to adapt them for your business. One thing that's super powerful and that we have set up for a client recently is that we've made their rule set update itself based on the past executions of agents. The agent would learn from its past work. Each time it does something, it would read how it is right now and learn that, okay, right now it's changing. Maybe we have a new employee and I'm realizing that. So what I'm gonna do is add a new assignee here, add a new employee row and update the values. And we let the agent also update the actual document. That's a little bit crazy, a little bit meta, but you could tell the agent, read the document, read about the context of the task, and if you see a gap in the document, if you see knowledge that could serve the next agent, just update it. That's pretty powerful, and that's, I think, like the future of agentic work is just like self-learning agents. Now, just so you know, ClickUp does offer AI agents and potentially is capable of doing that, but it's never gonna be as agentic as if you steer it yourself in make.com. Because if you just like let ClickUp free flow with their super agents, they can do a lot of stuff, but they can also make mistakes and they can do stuff you don't need. Whereas with this document and with the next modules I'm going to show you in Make, you're really steering how exactly you want the output to be. Now that it's set, we're going to go into the next step, which is about feeding this knowledge into the agent, as we said. So what this module does is it gets the rule set for the agents here. All right, so it's going to actually get the page that we just saw. And the next step is about building the actual agent. So what you want to do is use a Make Agent module. It's available here. It's called Make AI Agents. And the slight difference with the API calls you do with Gemini or with OpenAI or with Anthropic is that it's got a few more options here. If you were to just add like an Anthropic module and let it do the job and just have the AI of Claude doing the work, you can do that, but you're not going to get all the possibilities of native Make agents. So one thing that the Make agent can do is add knowledge, as I explained, instructions in the prompt here, all right, and tools. So you can let it do more stuff with other software. So we're not going to add knowledge here because Make asks you to just upload a file or add an existing file that you actually uploaded in Make. And I don't really like this because the user experience of changing a file in Make is so much worse than editing here in ClickUp and just letting it perform the API call. And just like each time you actually use the agent, you have refreshed context here if you were to make a change. We're going to add one tool part though. We're going to let Make know about our ClickUp folder because it's going to be able to know that for our agency, we have more than this task that we're triggering. We have a bunch of tasks across 10 clients, and we do need to give that context to the agent. So what I'm going to do is add a ClickUp tool and tell it to get a folder. It's going to get the values of a specific folder, and instead of letting the agent decide, we're going to give it the right folder ID. So we actually have the folder ID here where our task is coming from here. So we can dynamically only request the tasks of this folder. I'm going to click save, and that's basically a first tool we're giving to our agent. Another tool we want to give our agent is letting him get information about specific tasks, okay? Here we have a request called list filtered tasks. So it's going to be able to query, to request a specific amount of tasks for a user, for example, or with a specific value. The only thing I'm going to force it to do is set the folder ID. So we're kind of like bounding it to this folder. And for the rest, we're just going to let the AI agent decide. So if it wants to get some lists information, it can get tasks for specific assignees if it wanted. And we're also gonna let it request tasks for a certain due date, for example. And then we're gonna let the agent set a limit as well. I'm not gonna put archive tasks and I'm not gonna put closed tasks, but I'm gonna include subtasks, and that's basically my configuration. You can let the agent decide, but I recommend you to steer it quite a bit. And this actual tool is very useful for any ClickUp agent you need anyway. So I recommend you to learn about the list filter tasks tool. Now, there's another thing I can do that's way more open than that, but we don't want to do it. It's called adding an MCP. You can add a full MCP that gives you access to every single API call in ClickUp. The agent will be able to create a task, to get tasks, to filter tasks, to update them, to delete them, to add them to a list, and you can totally let your agent do all of those things. But for the model we're going to pick, I don't recommend you to do it. If the model is not super smart, it can go delete a task because it thinks that's the right thing to do. So the more you give it possibilities, the more it's likely to make mistakes. So I actually do not recommend using an MCP in make automations. On top of that, the MCP fills up context of AI so bad. It is an interesting technology, but it is not very optimized for agentic work. What I'm going to do is just for the sake of this example, show you that the MCP module is available, but disable it. Once we've set that up, let's focus on our instructions. Again, knowledge done, tools done, instructions is the last thing. We're back here, and as a model, we're going to choose Gemini 3.5 Flash, because as of June 2026, it's probably one of the best model out there. It's the best value for your money. Now, if you want to learn how to set up models in make.com, I've put an article down there. You can basically pick your model, get your API key from your provider, paste it in Make, and then you're good to go. I personally love Google's Gemini. I'm not affiliated or anything, but they offer the best value for money out there when it comes to agentic work. I'm going to leave the reasoning at medium. I think it's pretty good. And then I'm going to give it some context. So I've already prepared that, and I've told the agent, you're an AI triage for branding agency. Here is your rule set. Here's what you have to do. So I've given it a persona. And I've added the agency context, which is basically all the content of that page I showed you earlier. Next up, I've added an input. So this is the system instructions. This is like the higher level instruction. And this is like the context instruction. So this is likely to change each time the task ID changes, name, content. So that's where you usually put your variables. Here you can actually put like the context because it never changes. It's not really a variable, but your variables need to go into the input. So what I'm doing is giving it the current timestamp, then I'm giving it the task ID, name, content. So like that's the description of the task. That's the list name, that's the status. Here are some tags, here are some assignees. And then I'm giving it like a specific instruction that's like very specific to how ClickUp works. And you have to have played with the ClickUp API to know that. But for the indexes, you need to return the value that for 1 point, the index is actually 0. This just basically lets the agent know that the value it's going to return needs to be ready for the API. And then we are going to add some more stuff. So I have here the amount of conversation history. So that's how many requests of what it's done before that it can use. I'm just going to leave it at 10. I think it's a good value. And then the response. So that is essential that you actually set up the data structure response. If you do not do that, you're gonna end up with a response that is just written text, kind of like you're talking to ChatGPT. All right, I think this task needs to go into batch now, it's 4 hours, and it needs to be assigned to Ramzi. But you don't want that, because the next steps, what ClickUp is gonna use is a response that is expected in a very specific way. You wanna like gear the AI to set this response in this format. It's called a JSON payload, and it needs to go into the next API call we do to ClickUp. So here is how it works. You have an index for your batch. You can set this value, a start date, a due date, a points index, assignee, reasoning, that's how it works, and stuff. So I'm basically explaining the agent, here's exactly how I expect you to respond. And then I'm clicking save, and all is done. My agent has instructions, tools, knowledge. It's ready to go into the next step, which is updating ClickUp. If you want to test your agent before you go into the next step, you can actually run it and make a change into your ClickUp list. So we're going to do that right now and see how it actually works and thinks. I'm just going to set the value here to AI triage, and this should trigger it. It's getting the values, and then the agent is thinking. So that's what's taking the most time, and it's always what's going to take the most time in a make automation. It's taking them time to just like figure out how to set this task. I've set the value to social media kit. So it needs to basically understand everything about our business, what it does, and everything. So it is essential that you let it think and you give it time to think. Think between like 20 seconds and a minute, it's gonna do its job. All right, so it's finished, and it's actually given me a few things. It went and fetched the filtered task for specific user, I can see here. And it basically like knows for that this user is supposed to be assigned. That social media kit involves template creation, which falls under Ina's responsibilities. This is in progress, so it's assigned to this week's batch. The agent has thought, all right, I'm seeing this task. I know that this person is responsible of social media, so I'm just gonna assign this person. I think they're the most likely to do the task. Now this data is not in ClickUp yet, but I can use it for my automation next. So I've added another module that lets me get the response of the AI and turn it into a JSON. JSON is a format that lets the API call, the request we send to ClickUp, be structured the way we want. So AI is giving us the response, we're making it IT ready, let's say, and then ClickUp is receiving it, and we're filling in what the AI gives us as the assignee, the due date, the start date, index, the points. One last thing I want to do to the agent is actually let it remove the AI triage tag. So when it's done its successful work, I just wanted to remove the tag that says AI triage on that same task ID. I'm going to click save, and then I am going to run that agent. So I'm going to go back, save, and as you can see, the make automation is on. So now let's test our agent and start setting some values on those tasks. I'm starting to change the tags of those tasks. Agent is just going to do the work of understanding that there's a trigger here. I need to work and think of what am I going to do of this task? Who am I going to decide is going to work on this task? What's the start date, due date, how much workload it is? And in about 10 seconds, each time, it's going to automatically plan the tasks for me. And it works even if some values are set. So here I don't have an assignee, I don't have a start date. So I'm asking the AI to triage stuff, and it's going to do the work behind the scenes and act basically as a project manager on my behalf. Same thing here, these tasks are not set, please set an assignee here. So all I'm doing is like calling the agent to do its job with tags. And behind the scenes, it's triggering the agents, letting them think and plan for me. What's happening then is that I can go into my workload view and see the tasks being planned automatically into the team's workload. Workloads are pretty much respected, like plus minus a few hours maybe, but overall, I am pretty good. And I've basically let AI set every single value so that I can have a workload as a founder. As you can see, the tags are being removed little by little. The values are being changed by AI. So it's like setting the start dates, due dates, everything is starting to be planned and flow into the right batches of work. And if you want the same automation for your business, I've put the blueprint as well as the prompt and the rule set, so you can download those. And obviously, if you need more help, you can book a discovery call with us, and we'll be happy to help you set up such automation on your workspace for your team, or even more AI agents and automations. We set up very advanced agents for businesses who get to understand how they work, where's the gap, and where they can save hours every week just by letting agentic work do the heavy lifting. If you're just curious about agents, subscribe to this channel because I'll be launching a playlist on AI agents in and out of ClickUp. Now, thank you for watching this one, and until then, stay productive.